Mashed potatoes can be way more than a simple side dish. I've got 12 genius ways to use them, and some are gonna blow your mind. For my first trick, I'm gonna turn these mashed potatoes into French fries without the frying. They're gonna be fluffy on the inside and crispy on the outside, and all you need are a couple pantry staples. So I'm gonna start by putting the mashed potatoes into a bowl. There's a good bit of creamy moisture in here. I'm gonna balance that out by adding in some cornstarch, but also make these really crispy. Kick it up with just a little bit of Cajun seasoning and some Parmesan cheese. Just shape it into a disc and then pop it in the fridge. You could also pop it in the freezer for a shorter amount of time. You just want it to firm up a little bit so you can cut it into fry shapes. Our dough is chilled and ready to be air fried. It's still really soft, but don't worry. You're gonna wanna use parchment here to transfer it from our work surface to the air fryer because it is a sticky dough. So I'm gonna do half at a time. All right, and then just kind of pat it out into like a rectangle shape. Then get a knife and then just cut them into fry shapes. We'll be able to separate them as they cook. I'm gonna go right into the air fryer. You're gonna air fry these at 400 for about 20 minutes or so. You wanna flip them halfway through. Use the parchment to pull them out. Give your knife a little spray with some cooking spray. Just give them a little twist and turn with your knife so that they get crispy on the other side. I'm also gonna spritz the top now with a little olive oil spray. And back in we go. That's what I'm talking about. Golden, unfried, and delicious. But how do they taste? And are they crispy? That crunch. The crispy edges are the best. That little kick from the Cajun seasoning, I wouldn't have guessed that this started with a pack of mashed potatoes. Let's see what trick I have up my sleeve next. One of mashed potatoes' superpower is its ability to thicken soups without changing the flavor. Sometimes you're making a soup that you intended to be really thick and creamy, but it didn't happen. Mashed potatoes are the great solution. This really works for any kind of soup because these are so neutral in flavor, they're not gonna change the flavor of anything. I made this cream and broccoli soup, so it's a perfect fit here. It's gonna go in and make this extra creamy without adding in heavy cream. And watch, they're just gonna kind of like disappear and blend right in. And you can see how it's just kind of formed a more velvety texture to the soup. Creamy, velvety goodness. Perfect. I'm gonna turn these mashed potatoes into another crispy snack. I'm making potato croquettes. The inside is similar to the way we did the fries, but we are gonna deep fry these because, let's be honest, everything fried is delicious. And to that, I'm just gonna add in some fresh parsley, some Parmesan cheese. This is also just a great thing to do if you have any leftover mashed potatoes from the holidays. And then some cornstarch to absorb some of that moisture and help these get really light and crispy. I'm gonna season it up with just a little salt and pepper. These are things you can totally make ahead of time and already have them shaped into your balls, and then you can just fry them whenever the party starts. I love having things like this if you're like already deep frying something, chicken wings, fish, whatever. If you've got the fryer already pulled out, make use of it. You're just gonna take your potato mixture and roll it up into balls. All right, once you've got your balls rolled, we're gonna set up a simple breading station, just some Italian breadcrumbs in one, some eggs in the other. And then just some flour in the other. Season my flour just a little bit with salt and pepper. Our mashed potatoes go into the flour first, into the egg, give them a little toss, and then into the breadcrumbs. This will give them some structure so you can re-roll them. Potato croquettes and any kind of croquette is just like a really light breading. So they'll be like light and crispy on the outside, and then you get to the good stuff on the inside. This is a deep fry situation, but once again, it's worth it. Let's see if my oil's ready. This is a little trick. You can put in a dry wooden spoon. If bubbles form around it, it's ready. Now it's ready. We go in with our croquettes. Everything for the most part is cooked inside, so these do not take long. Toss them around a little bit. You just want them golden brown and crispy on all sides. Look at those, golden brown and delicious. Let's just give one a little test, just so you can see what we're working with. Crispy on the outside. Yes. See what I mean? These look so good. So I'm just gonna serve them with a little sour cream. I'm gonna add in some chives. They're really just fine on their own. You could also do maybe like a spicy ranch or hot sauce. And listen to the crunch. We just really elevated those mashed potatoes. Look at that, creamy, cheesy, steamy, yum. You're gonna wanna make double of these. Potatoes inside are seasoned perfectly, crunchy on the outside. That's a 10 out of 10. Our mashed potatoes make the perfect topping for a shepherd's pie. I'm all about shortcuts and whatever it takes to get dinner on the table in an easy way. Using this secret weapon is the way to go. It works with any shepherd's pie recipe. Just make the filling and use these potatoes as the topping. You can go straight from the package, spread them on, and top with cheddar cheese. Then you can go straight from the stove to the oven and from the oven to your table. That's a good looking shepherd's pie. Garnish it with a little fresh parsley. Let's dig in. This is the ultimate, the epitome of comfort food. Oh yeah. See that? I was able to really keep this a one-pan meal thanks to those mashed potatoes, and when they are paired with this gravy, it's one of my favorite foods of all time right there. 12 out of 10. That's the best topping. Maybe one of the best shepherd's pies I've ever had. You're gonna have a hard time deciding what to make for dinner tonight. I'm giving you too many options. This time of year, there's nothing more comforting than a warm, cozy bowl of soup, and I am making a loaded potato soup. Thanks to a little shortcut, this dinner can be on your table in less than 30 minutes. So I've just gone ahead and sauteed some onion. You wanna just cook it until it's soft. You can do it in oil or butter. As they start to get translucent like that, just go in with your taters. These already have butter and milk, so you're halfway there. And then you just go in with some chicken broth, a little heavy cream. Recipe calls for milk, but we're celebrating. Turn those mashed potatoes into soup and thank me later. As these cook and get heated, they're just gonna melt into that broth and it's gonna be so creamy and velvety smooth. Look at this. Does that not look delicious and homemade? All you have to do is taste and season. And it hardly needs anything because the potatoes were already seasoned. Just gonna go in with a touch more salt and pepper just to make people think I made this homemade. This is a delicious creamy potato soup. You could stop here, but we're gonna turn it in to a loaded version. So I've got cheese, bacon, and green onions as the usual suspects. You could add in sour cream if you want. Cheese down, let her melt. No one would know this is not homemade. Who doesn't love a loaded potato? Perfectly seasoned. I can't explain how cheesy, creamy, it's perfection. And no one has to know our secret. Did you know you can turn mashed potatoes into tender biscuits? I'm gonna start by mixing together the dry ingredients, starting with flour, 2.5 cups, and then a little bit of sugar. It's gonna help with the browning and give these biscuits just a hint of sweetness. And then 2 tablespoons of baking powder. This is gonna help them rise. And then a teaspoon of salt. All right, now you cut in the butter. I like to keep my butter really cold, and then you can use your box grater and grate it right in. And it's just a lot easier to incorporate. That's gonna help create layers in the biscuit. Okay, now we add in the star of the show, mashed potatoes. So we need 1.5 cups. Just gonna do 1/2 cup at a time. Mashed potatoes are going to make these a more tender biscuit. So now I'm gonna take this mixture. It's got the little chunks of butter and mashed potato in there. I'm gonna form a well in the center of the bowl. And that's where we'll pour the wet ingredients in. For the wet ingredients, I like to mix them all together and then pour them in all at once. So it is 1/3 cup of cold water, 1/3 cup of milk, and then 1 egg. If you mix it up ahead of time, that will prevent you from over mixing once you add it into the flour. All right, then you're gonna use your fork to mix this. Whenever you're making biscuits of any kind, you don't wanna overmix. So just until the dough forms, and then we're gonna turn it onto our surface. All right, so you don't really wanna work with it too much. I like to get it into a rectangle, and then you kind of build the layers. Folding over, pat down, and then just do that a few times. You may have to add a little more flour if it sticks to your cutting board. This dough does feel very tender. All right, and then you're going to spread it out to about 3/4 inch to 1 inch in thickness, and then we'll just cut them out into our biscuits. All right, then just grab your baking sheet, have some parchment down, use a biscuit cutter, flour it. That way you don't press down too much and shrink the layers. All right, then you're just gonna brush the tops with a little more milk. Then you're just gonna pop these in the oven. They bake at 450 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes. Look at these potato biscuits. All those good layers. They rose up so nicely thanks to the mashed potatoes. They help give them a little bit of structure. Are they tender? That is the question. It does work. Mashed potatoes do help create a tender biscuit, and it's nice and like moist inside. To mimic what we love in a mashed potato or a baked potato, I've got some flavored butter that has chives and cheese, butter, just like what you would put on a potato. I'm gonna let the heat melt that, and that is gonna flavor this biscuit perfectly. That is the way to do it. For my next trick, I'm turning these into waffles. Those are perfect. Start with your mashed potatoes in a bowl. To that, I'm adding some sauteed garlic and onions that I've cooked until those onions are softened. This is just gonna give these a very savory flavor. Obviously, we're making savory waffles, not sweet waffles. It's basically just a fun way to serve up a potato pancake or a hash brown. Going in with 2 eggs to help hold it all together. Give that a mix. All right, to this, I'm adding in some flour, about 1/4 cup, and then a little bit of salt and pepper. That is the batter. I thought it might also be good if I add in some Parmesan cheese. Not in the recipe. I have a tendency to do that sometimes, guys. All right, then they're ready for the waffle maker. Just make sure you've already preheated it. And then you want to spray it with some cooking spray. And then drop in about 1/4 to 1/3 cup of your potato mixture. That's it. It takes about 5 minutes. You want them to get as browned and then slightly crisp around the edges as possible. This is fun to make several of these, and then you can have a variety of toppings. You can do sweet or savory. You can make this mixture more sweet or savory. I'm going the savory route, of course. You can do some sour cream, some chives. I thought some like spicy chutney might also be good for these. Look at that beauty. It smells like crispy cheese. All right, so you know the drill. We're just gonna keep going. I'm gonna make one big one, which is really gonna be 4 individual. I don't know why I didn't do that to begin with. Oh, now those are perfect little party-sized snacks. Perfect for like a breakfast for dinner situation or just a fun appetizer. For topping, I've got a spicy mango chutney. I think that'll be delicious. Turn this into a savory little appetizer. A little chutney, little waffle. That's quite delightful. You kind of don't know what to expect. And after that first bite, you're all in. Because the word waffle sounds like it's about to be a sweet breakfast, but as soon as you take that bite, you're thinking more hash brown. Just one ingredient plus a couple pantry staples, and you've got the perfect party appetizer. This time of year, we cook a lot of ham and we have a lot of leftover ham. So this is a leftover ham and mashed potato casserole. We're gonna use a shortcut and our leftover ham, and this is gonna be an easy dinner for the week. The mashed potatoes are actually gonna serve as our crust. So I'm gonna mix mashed potatoes with some cheddar cheese. And another thing you always have this time of year are those fried onions. So in goes one of those, and that's gonna be the crust. Give that a good mix, and then spread this at the bottom of the casserole dish. You're gonna go in the bottom and then a little bit up the sides as well. Mashed potato crust, can't be that bad. All right, now you get another bowl and you add in your leftover ham that you've gone ahead and diced up. And if you don't have any leftover ham, you can easily just use like a ham steak from the grocery store. Can of cream of mushroom. You know we love it in our casseroles. This might not be the prettiest mixture coming together, but you're gonna trust the process. And then a bag of frozen and then thawed peas and carrots. Recipe calls for the whole bag. My kids are not gonna want the whole bag in there, so I'm not gonna do that. But I'll do half. All right, to this, you go in with some dried mustard, some garlic powder, and some cracked pepper. The ham is salty. The cream of mushroom has salt in it, so recipe does not call to add extra salt. You can do that to taste if you want, and then you're putting this right into that little well we made into our potatoes. Now I'm just gonna cover it with foil, bake it at 375 for about 45 minutes, but then I'm gonna uncover it, top it with the rest of our cheese and the rest of those onions, and go back in for another 5 minutes or so. I love a dinner like this that takes 5 minutes to put together. Look at this. Crispy, cheesy, creamy, all the things. You wanna let it sit for like 5 or 10 minutes to come together, if you can wait that long. But I love the way we created that mashed potato crust. It's just like the perfect vessel to hold all in the goodness. It's almost like a hot pie meets a shepherd's pie. Probably could have let it sit a little longer. The way those potatoes and cheese have kind of like crusted up along the edge, this is the perfect thing to serve up with your leftover ham this year. This really is a great use for those mashed potatoes and that leftover ham. A+. We're gonna use these mashed potatoes to make a delicious filling because we're making pierogies. Who doesn't love a good pierogi? They're indulgent, they're fun to snack on, they're great to have for a party. And you can always get them at the freezer section, but why? When you can make them yourself. Start by melting the butter, going in with some onion. You're gonna cook that until it's softened. Pierogies are typically filled with a mashed potato filling, which we're making, or a sauerkraut filling. I've done both because if we're gonna make pierogies, let's just make them all. We'll season with a little bit of salt to help these soften, and then a little bit of white pepper. And then we go in with our mashed potatoes. Turn off the heat, stir it up, and then we're ready to fill our dough. Pierogi dough, we have a great recipe for it at Allrecipes. I wouldn't tell anybody if you just wanted to use a store-bought pie dough though. Take my dough and roll it out. You want it really thin, about 1/8 of an inch in thickness. Get you a small round cutter, about 3 inches. We'll take our fillings and go right into the center of each circle, starting with our potato. And then you want to moisten the edges with your finger and a little bit of water, kind of help glue it together. The water with the dough acts as a glue, so the edges will glue together. And then you just kind of crimp them with the fork to make them look cute, but also to hold them together. You're going to drop them into boiling water and let them cook until they float. About 3 to 5 minutes. You can eat them like that, but we're gonna go one step further and then make them crispy because everything's better when it's a little bit crispy. They floated to the top, they're puffed up. Just gonna take them out and drain them. All right, now we make them crispy. Got a nonstick skillet, I'm going in with some butter. Let that melt and get hot, and then we're just gonna fry them up on both sides just to get them a little bit toasty. You could also just deep fry it. This only takes a couple minutes, and we're ready to eat. Lots of ways you can serve up your pierogies. I'm just doing simple sour cream, sprinkle with some chives, and that's it. Fluffy potatoes, I put that sauerkraut in there too. They smell so good. Going for a dip. 10 out of 10. Another great thing to do with your mashed potatoes. How'd that get there? And they do kind of go together. We're using our mashed potatoes next to make potato rolls. These are going to be so light and delicious, and it's just the perfect use for a mashed potato. So we're gonna start like any good bread recipe and get our yeast activated. Just got some warm water, add in our yeast, and let it do its thing. Meanwhile, I got my other ingredients ready. I'm using 1/2 cup of mashed potatoes. Into that, I'm going in with some scalded milk, some shortening, 1/4 cup of sugar, and give that a little mix. Don't be scared, it will all come together. Yeast is ready, and with our potato mixture along with an egg, give that a mix. Then I'm gonna start adding in the flour. I'm gonna start with 2 cups. This will start to attach to that shortening and everything, and it's gonna start making sense. And then we'll add some more flour to bring it together to make a dough. This is just gonna help everything get incorporated. And then in with a couple more cups of flour. Why are potato rolls so good? They make the best hamburger buns, and it's funny how just a little bit of mashed potatoes can make such a difference. Transfer this to my floured surface and then knead it until it is smooth. All right, once you knead the dough until it's smooth, it goes into a bowl with some oil. You're gonna let it go through a couple rises, roll it up into rolls, and then we're gonna bake it. Rolled and ready to go. You can already tell they're gonna be kind of light and delicate. We made the perfect dough. We're gonna bake them at 400 degrees for just about 15 to 20 minutes. Oh yeah, look at these. Perfect, warm, crusty on the outside. Oh, but they're so light. That must be the magic of the mashed potato. I gave you the potato roll. Let's see how they are inside. Fluffy, steamy. That's a good roll. Quite possibly the softest roll I've ever eaten. Feather light inside. It just kind of melts in your mouth. The only difference between this and other bread recipes is the addition of the mashed potatoes. Maybe they are kind of magical. These will make the absolute best sandwiches and burger sliders. These really are an A+ 100. Do you know the perfect thing to make with mashed potatoes? Gnocchi. It is so easy. All you need are the mashed potatoes and a little bit of flour. I'm gonna start with the mashed potatoes. You only need about 1 1/3 cup. And go in with about 1/2 cup of flour. It's a potato pasta, you know? So you got both elements. And an egg. get this going, and then we'll gradually add in flour as needed. You're gonna add in flour until you're able to work it with your hands without it being too sticky. Think like Play-Doh consistency. That's it. Then you're just gonna kind of knead it, kind of like you're playing with Play-Doh. Then you're just gonna cut this into 4 pieces and roll each one into a snake. You want your rope to be about 1 inch in thickness. All right, and then you're gonna cut this into 1-inch pieces. You could stop here, okay? You can really just boil them up and cook them just from here. I will not tell. I would probably assume you don't have the authentic gnocchi board, but a fork works just fine. And the purpose is to create grooves in it because you want the sauce to have something to stick to when you cook these up. So you take your piece and you just use your thumb and do a couple little rolls down on your fork. Then you've just got little grooves in there. Just roll them, make some grooves, or not. You can just do them as plain little pillows and get you some water boiling. So we're gonna cook these up. Get you some water, salt it, bring it to a boil. In another pan, get your sauce of choice. I'm gonna go marinara today. You could do brown butter, you could do Alfredo, pesto, whatever you wanna do. And then we're just gonna take our little pillows of deliciousness and drop them right into the water. Kind of like the pierogies, they're gonna float, they're gonna puff up, and then you know they're ready. And then we're just gonna add them straight into the sauce. You can see they've puffed up, they're floating, and they're about good to go. You don't want them to be like raw dough in the middle. If you can feel that they're like kind of puffed up, then you know they're ready, and they are. So I'm gonna go straight from the water to the sauce and let them cook up and absorb some of that goodness. Beautiful, easy dinner. Let this simmer. I'll show you how we serve it up. What was once mashed potatoes is now pasta. A little cheese, a little fresh basil, and that's a restaurant quality dinner, if I do say so myself. For a little taste test of the perfect bite. Creamy, light pillows of perfection. And it started with mashed potatoes. And for my last trick, a mashed potato bar. It's a fun no-cook party trick because all you have to do is heat these up in the microwave and then put them straight into a crock pot, keep it on warm, and you're good to go. My daughter, she likes having her friends over. She would love this right here. You can choose any variety of toppings. Of course, every mashed potato needs gravy, an assortment of cheeses, some crispy onions, a little bit of diced ham, green onions. You can make them a little healthy with some broccoli. And of course, every potato loves some bacon. I mean, how fun is that? You gotta go cheese first so that the heat from the potato can melt the cheese. So many good things. I'm always a bacon kind of person. Just turn it into dinner. My whole high school, for lunch every day in the cafeteria, I would get 2 sides of mashed potatoes and gravy, and that was my meal. When I tell you this used to be my absolute favorite food in the whole world, I'm not lying. That's fun. The perfect potato bite. Dinner is served. From crispy to soft and pillowy, the mashed potato can clearly do it all. It's hard to pick a favorite, but I am still dreaming about those potato rolls. If you give any of these recipes a try, let me know which one you like the best.